What's up, everyone? Got another really interesting video for you today. Down in the description below, I've linked to a video from Sports Gematria, a channel which some of you may or may not be aware of already. Now, I'll let you guys watch that video and make your own judgments on what's happening there. Now, you guys know I'm far, far more interested in Gematria itself than the people who teach it. I don't enjoy tearing other people down. I don't like that. I was a little bit disappointed that even after meeting Zach in person and sharing cordial conversation that he has once again resorted to using his YouTube channel to slander me and my work. Now, normally I take issues up with people directly. I've tried that in the past with this individual, and it's kind of pointless. Now, what's so odd about this to me is how he did reach out to me after I made an update to the calculator, and I did make the change he wanted, but he still went on these whiny rants about how I'm bad for Gematria and ruining the movement. So, I don't know, guys. Imagine building someone such a helpful tool to spread their work, then using that site to promote his book for 3 years, only to have that person call you names and question your sexuality over and over again on his channel. You know, I have a hard time wrapping my head around it, right? And many of you should too. I have 5 years of videos on YouTube. If I said anything offensive that's deserving of that, it would have been found and brought to light by now, but it doesn't exist. So I don't know what's going on over there. He certainly seems a lot more concerned with me than I'm concerned with him. Now, the reason I'm making this video is not just to bash Zach. You know, it seems like he's dealing with enough negativity over there already. What I want to show you instead is that by now, Zachary K Hubbard, as we know him, is more or less a character who is connected to the numeric riddles of the mainstream media. Just like everyone he decodes. He is every bit a part of this system as anyone. And a news story we got today, a date which has remarkable alignments with Zach's name, is another perfect example. Now, in all fairness, Comedy Central aired a segment with a rip-off version of My Calculator by the Numbers earlier this year. And here they interviewed a woman and put it on one of the segments of their show. Pretty minor ritual, but it was by the Numbers. But that's a lot different than being coded in with the biggest annual sports game of the world, as Zach Hubbard was this past February. Consider how in the alphabetic order this name Hubbard sums to 56, and in February we had Super Bowl 56. The MVP of Super Bowl 56 was Cooper Kupp, who was born in Yakima, Washington, which is where Zach was living at the time. I know he's moving. I don't know if he's moved yet, but that's where he was. The Bengals, the other team, was coached by a guy named Zach, and he was born in '83, which is the same year as Zachary K Hubbard. And then one of the players he coached had the last name Hubbard. Now, all three of these guys, Zach Hubbard, Sam Hubbard, Zach Taylor, have the same birth numerology of 130. This is a number that's found in the Gematria of Zachary K Hubbard. And this is also the number that they put in the big headline today, 1300. We'll talk at length about this. I'll come back and circle around to this decode in a little bit, as there was something much deeper going on there. But that wasn't even the first time that we saw a big riddle connected to Zach in the mainstream. On his 33rd birthday, we got this news story about the police shooting of a man who taught autistic children. And that's the news story here on the right side of your screen from 2016. And this stood out because Zach says that he used to teach autistic children. And how strange that the man shot in this story had matching 149 Gematria with Zachary K Hubbard. And in reverse, the victim's name was 202, like the day of the year that Zach was born. And, you know, there's more that goes in with this. I have a whole post on it. The city it happened in syncs up with his name. So does the state. Well, the state, Florida, is where we also got this truck crash yesterday, where 1,300 gallons of cooking oil were spilled on the freeway. So there's definitely an organic element to all of this. I want to remind everybody that shortly after Zach and I met, we both had this bizarre synchronicity where people we both knew got in car crashes on the same day. My uncle was involved in a fatal crash. he knew like 2 or 3 people who got in car accidents on that same day. So when things like this happen, it reinforces the idea that we can't necessarily pass judgments on numbers alone. There has to be more that goes into it. So about 10 minutes before I saw this news story from Fox News today, by the way, this crash happened yesterday. We'll talk about how both dates are significant. I was on my Discord earlier today, and I saw some people talking about Zach, as that's a common topic on there, as you would imagine. And I can't remember if it's in this video or the comments or whatever, but the reason so many people are upset with Zach is that they're accusing him of being akin to a snake oil salesman. Now, there's no question that when Zach burst onto the scene, he was ridiculously accurate with sports predictions, to the point where it instantly showed people that the games were rigged. I mean, is it a coincidence that 2 or 3 years later, sports gambling was legal in most parts of the nation? Again, I'll let you be the judge of that. But this news story here, again, I saw this about 10 minutes after I ran the gematria of the phrase snake oil salesman, which I had been thinking about for a couple of weeks. And what is a snake oil salesman? Well, this is a pretty classical term that's used to describe fraudulent or deceptive marketing. And certainly there's been some level of deception on that channel. And again, yes, sports are rigged. I did a video earlier today showing that. No one's debating that. But the extent to which these things are organic and may be staged remains a topic of fascinating debate to me. So we'll look at this phrase in a second, but just the phrase snake oil sums to 130. And this did stick out to me a little bit because the name Zachary K Hubbard sums to 1,300. So this was a number I was associating with snake oil, Zach Hubbard. And then what are the odds that shortly later we get this news story about cooking oil spilling on the freeway with 1,300 gallons, with that number found in the gematria of Zachary K Hubbard. But this is where things get really weird. Notice how this story was published today, December 16th. Today happens to be a span of 149 days after Zach's birthday, December 16th. 149 days after his birthday. Well, in ordinal, Zachary K Hubbard sums to 149. The date of the crash, the 15th, on that date, he was exactly 2,056 weeks old. Well, in reverse, the name Zachary K Hubbard sums to 256. Now, again, this happened in the state of Florida, which is the same state that we got the media's tribute to Zachary K Hubbard on his 33rd birthday, where the autism teacher gets shot. In Latin, gematria used to be called Jewish on the site, which has since been corrected. Notice how Florida sums to 170. This is the same as snake oil salesman, 170 ordinal, and then the name Zachary K Hubbard sums to 170 ordinal. Notice also how his full name equals 100, just like snake oil salesman, 100. And Zach is originally from the city of Portland, which equals 100. Well, what about this? This crash also fell on a date with 49 numerology. And remember, this was a huge number yesterday. The coach of the 49ers got his 49th career regular season win in a game that would have given him his 49th career loss, including the playoffs. It's said that this happened in the city of Fort Myers. And notice how Fort Myers sums to 49. This is the same as both Zach Hubbard, 49, and snake oil, 49 reverse reduction. Even oil spill sums to 49. On top of all this, the crash happened on Buckingham Road. Buckingham Road sums to 251 reverse. The name Zachary K Hubbard sums to 2051 in standard gematria. This, the alphabetic order, with the ancient Hebrew Greek isopsephy charts applied to the numbers. Furthermore, just the name Buckingham itself. Notice how Buckingham has gematria of 89. Well, you may recall that in the Super Bowl, this is the number that Zach Hubbard shares with Sam Hubbard, the Bengals player who was in Super Bowl 56. The name Sam Hubbard, which I guess is his full name, sums to 89 in the alphabetic order. In reduction, Zachary K Hubbard equals 89. His common name, Zach Hubbard, even has 809 in Latin. Now, when you write out 89, you get a sum of 623. When you measure from the birthday of Zach Hubbard to Sam Hubbard, you get exactly 623 weeks. You know, these things obviously aren't a coincidence. I'm using the same one large number cipher in addition to the base methods. I guess we glanced at standard, but you see this is pretty consistent. Now, Sam Hubbard wears number 94. And that stands out because the name Zach Hubbard sums to 94. Now, when you write out the number 94, it has the same gematria as conspiracy, right? And remember, Zach has had articles written about him several times in the media, calling him a conspiracy theorist. And I just wonder, like, am I going to get an article calling me a conspiracy theorist? How come all these people who are attacking gematria don't attack my channel? I think my channel is too undeniable for anyone to honestly try to critique. So that's why you'll never see it happen. This shit is too strong over here on this channel. And I always wondered, why does Zach not use my date calculator? He's got full access to my website for free, so why wouldn't he use these awesome decoding tools like the date grid, the planetary counts, the lunation counts, eclipse dates, things like that? He still uses this crappy time and date calculator. Let's see. And I always just wondered why. You know, this calculator, you gotta input the date very inconveniently. You gotta click calculate new date, and then you get this ugly interface. Like, it's all laid out very nicely and neatly here for you. So why is this not a tool that's used? I don't get it. Literally the best date calculator on the internet right now. Remember, guys, there's a term that I find to be very interesting called limited hangout. And a limited hangout is essentially when, you know, they can't any longer misinform the public. There's a certain veil of secrecy that's been shredded. So what they do is resort to admitting or even volunteering, which I think is the case with gematria, some of the truth, while still managing to withhold the key and damaging facts in the case. Doesn't this seem a little bit like what's going on here? And maybe my perspective is skewed because I'm the one doing the work on the deeper end, right? The astrological riddles, the eclipse riddles, and things of that nature. Now, when I look at this, I think, you know, I know there were people who knew about gematria, but it wasn't really in the public conscience. Like, I don't know of anyone before 2015 or 2014 who was on YouTube or any other platform talking about gematria and how it was being used. So that's why I'm not mad at anybody in this situation. Because as far as I can tell, someone somewhere introduced gematria in order to enlighten us. And whether that's happening on a different plane than what humanity can see, maybe Zach was used as some sort to bring that to us. I can't judge. I don't know. But again, to me, this was something that was volunteered. And maybe it was just to incite more division and whip people up into a frenzy. I'm not sure, but I think the way this has been playing out over the past few years, with Zach being this constant public figure that the media writes about, showing up on all these different various truther channels, I don't know. Again, you guys be the judge. Check out the video for yourself. I'm all for, you know, people seeing everything they can and listening to full context and everything. And maybe for the sake of humor, some context is lost here, but you know, again, this stuff gets a lot of support. It's pretty interesting, and the comments are fascinating. So I encourage you guys to check everything out. And as always, just keep an open mind. You know, when I found gematria, it was one thing. Over time, it slowly melted into something else. And what that new thing is far more beautiful, far more enlightening, far more awesome than what I thought it just was. And I'd like to think that as many of us as possible can be a vessel to shed the light part of things on the world instead of always focusing on the negativity. And speaking of negativity, I want to bring up one more thing on my screen. And I'm not the biggest Decode Your Reality fan. He's a nice guy. I was on his show, and we had a nice interview and everything. But one thing I do like that he has brought up is the birth cards. I've been focusing on this personally a little bit here and there, and it feels like over half the time the birth card is spot on. And the rest of them, sometimes there's misses as there is with astrology or anything like this. But how interesting is it that July 21st, Zach's birthday, this is the 7 of clubs. And this card, my best friend actually was born on October 15th as well. So they both have the same card. And, this is interesting to me because this card, it's a highly spiritual card, but it's up to the individual to manifest this spirituality and turn negativity into accomplishment. And I'm the kind of person who thinks that, if anything, Zach should feel pretty accomplished about what he's done. I mean, look at how many people are talking about Gematria. Look at how many people have accepted Gematria and are using and are spreading it now. That should be celebrated. That should be something that's awesome, right? And I would just like to think that someone who's brought that light to the world could have a little more positivity associated with it. But that's not my job. All I can do is kind of, nudge people in the direction that I believe I was nudged when I first started deeply researching this, which showed me without a doubt that there's something greater going on here. So that's all I got for you guys. Peace, love, God bless, and we'll talk to you all next time. See ya.